Hello, this is level 3 for Derailed. I've been calling it Right on Track, and it's the locomotive factory, so I'm gonna do a little walkthrough of some of the changes and finalizations that I've made. So, to contextualize where we're coming from the end of Kenny's level, which is by riding a minecart from the Great Under over to the archipelago, since the world is comprised of multiple several islands. As we come up, we get a preview of the building we're going to be entering. And the goal here is to reach the boss's office within this facility, or at least get some sort of insights about what happened with that narrative. So as we come up, we are using bushes and greenery to push the player in a certain direction, and I created a train yard that leaves this facility. So this part of the facility is meant to be the shipping area where the trains are actually sent off. So there's 4 tracks that are the actual sending tracks. And so you break in by breaking through this glass that is specifically inside of the facility, used to be as an emergency exit glass, which is contextualized with the sign on the inside. Um, Seems like that's bugging right now. But yeah, so it's in case of emergency, you use to break the window, and then we also are encouraged to use this pickaxe because up ahead we see that there's a rock now, which was not there before on the last iteration. So we can now take this pickaxe. And I've decided to put some of the narrative, just floating text on the screen. So the insight is that this building doesn't seem as run down and old as it should be, meaning that there is clearly some sort of activity that is unexpected going on here. Um, these are the trains that are exiting. We can ride underneath this train, which is being held up by the crane mechanisms above the trains. And here I am trying to show the player the direction that they are intended to go in. I also tried to use particular colors to tell the player, like, so for yellow, it's usually used to block like perimeters, limits on where the player can actually go. That's not universal, but in a lot of cases I do use it in that way. I've also tightened some of these stairs up to, at least compared to the way they were before, because the platform is very large. Um, Here it's implied that some part of the ceiling fell through, and so we have to break through these rocks. Coming through, we've tried to tighten up some of the gameplay spaces. Ahead here, I've implemented some control mechanisms in the space. So up ahead, we are eventually, if we kept playing, we'd see that we see enemies up ahead, which is sort of implying to the player that there is action here. And if we were to go down there, they'd have clear, easy line of sight of us. So we need in some way to move an object in order to cover that area for us to be able to get to the stairs and progress. So we can do that because these trains are here and they are meant to move throughout the facility. So this has a certain order to it in which the player is intended to sort of do the control mechanisms in a particular order. So here we rotate the train. We also have these elevators, and we have to be careful because some of the enemies eventually are going to turn around over here if we don't move intentionally. Right now I have cover here, but where I really need cover is up ahead, so there is one more mechanism to move over here. The train gets moved, and now most of the enemy's view will be blocked. I will wait a moment since this enemy is approaching me. Let's see. Alright, now I'm gonna run down.
Huh?
Try not to get caught. Now we're able to progress. So this is just sort of a transitional part of the facility where they use the rotating platforms to move them out. And then this is another shipping bay where finished trains are sent off, but there's, some sort of action where trains are knocked over, and that's why they're blocking certain parts of the level. Um, Up here, this is the final completion of inside of this building, and up ahead is where parts of the trains are actually put together. Um, and here's where they actually are moved from the crane onto the track as a finalized product, and they're either moved to the back to the train yard or out into the singular shipping line. Here we have some breakable blocks in order to progress. Um, I wanted to add some more movement and action in the scene, so this makes the player use some of the mechanics that we've implemented. So here we have a bridge just being held up by those breakable blocks. So if we knock down the breakable blocks, then the goal is to knock down the bridge. All right, and now we can run and jump to it. Over here, the goal is to get through that gate, but this panel doesn't seem to work. So there's some sort of power outage with the core systems. We have a flashlight. Over here, this is where we can start seeing the actual train parts being put together, and we have a key and some cylindrical pieces. The player will actually come over here after moving over here to the side and realizing that there is something over here after exploring. And what we have here is an electrical bay. And if we try to open this door, it's locked, and then there's a electrical pipe that is unfinished there. So we are intended to run back over to the building part, and then we can take this key and then take one of these pipe pieces, crouch under this pipe again. Now we can open this door and use this pipe piece in order to complete the connector, and doing so will open up the gate for us. So this is one part of the construction part of the facility, and then here we can see that there is a much larger construction bay, and there's clearly a larger building at hand, and so it's telling us that there's quite a scale of operation here. And then we have a easily openable door, and then now we find ourselves in the office. However, there is an enemy in here, so we have to be careful and hide behind the couches. That door is the boss's office, which if we crouch over to, we will realize it is locked. So if we peek around, there is an object over there on the other side of the room. So we need to sneak around near this enemy.
Huh?
And then try to get around them. And then we can get into the door, which is the boss's office, in which we have the revelation implying the final secret. And then this would be the intended dream sequence where we put everything together at the final part of the game. So yeah, that's my level. Thank you so much.